All right, and we're live. Every show I see sweating. You have to start. And she's here. All right, let's get started. So we occasionally actually start on time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another off season with your host Ren, and this is a show brought to you by the University of the Bahamas Athletic Department as well as University Relations. And today's guest, we have our first doctor. So last episode, we had Mr. PhD himself, Audie, tell us that I can not call him Audie, but look at this doctor today. Look at it. Oh Lord, doc, you showing us the picture? You gonna show us the picture? You in the coat? I see what you're doing. Showing off.
Oh man.
So if you hadn't have a show, you could get it set up. You're a little twisted. You got to twist back first.
Twist back.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. How is your internet connection?
I think it's good. I don't know. You got to tell me.
I'm going to double check mine. I see you look a little blurry, but you were good a second ago. So I'll double check mine right now.
Okay.
I'm going to throw this up, and then we'll get started. Thanks again for coming through, though. Check. All right. So I can see you more clearly. That was my connection, not yours. You must be one of those good networks. Okay. You were that good network. Where are you from? So without further ado, again, it's my pleasure to interview somebody I think is needed for this show. Off Season is a show brought to you by the University of the Bahamas Athletics Department as well as University Relations. And the key part about this is talking to athletes what is in this atmosphere of off season, right? Because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, sports to play. What would you have done?
Well, you could hear me?
I can hear you. I sweating, okay. And they get off on me sweating. Give me a second. I gotta wipe my face. They get off on me sweating. I don't like that. I don't know why I always sweating with every show, but I know today I sweating because I wear this black shirt. All right, I good. On you.
Okay, so hello everyone that's tuned in, and hey Redwood, thanks for having me. So to answer your question, no, I don't think I would have survived. Because for me, sports was basically number 2 for the most part. For me, I thought sports was my life, and so despite academics and thriving with academics, I always loved playing games, loved going to practices. I mean, granted, I would have find other things to do now, so I would have definitely still play pickup games or shoot around on my basketball court, because I have a basketball court in my backyard. So I wouldn't have just put the ball down and not play at all. But I don't think I would have survived, because the thrill of the game and stuff, that definitely did it for me. So I can't imagine what they're going through.
We're going to get into that. But again, this is something that people can do. If you are an athlete, we have numerous episodes, a lot of episodes, different topics from volleyball to coaching to recruitment on the page. So you can take a scroll. We have alumnus, alumna, and of course, anybody from the Alumni Association, especially Miss Dr. Before you almost get slapped, Dr. McKinney. And before I continue, we had a pleasure to be in some classes together. That shows my age. But I never know this is where you was heading. So my first question would be, when did you know you wanted to become a medical doctor?
The time was while I was at COB, actually. And yes, I do remember you from class. We were schoolies.
Talk sense. I ever used to come to class?
No, you said, but even if you came, you sat in the back of the class drawing these caricatures, and you wasn't tuned in at all.
Come on, somebody. Come on. Preach, girl. I can let you preach.
But so it was second year. So me and you studied the same degree, psychology. Right, so first year, after doing the introduction to psychology, you know, we were all on that path. A lot of us wanted to do industrial and organizational psychology. But
Yeah.
then I kind of learned more about psychiatry, and that kind of like sparked my interest. And I thought that in order to be a psychiatrist, that, you know, I could just be a do psychology and then specialize in psychiatry later. But after speaking to several individuals, then they informed me that, oh no, this is something completely different. You have to go to med school. And I was like, boy, that means I got to go and start taking a biochem or something like that. And, you know, people just take 5 years to do biochem and COB. So what that mean? I got to start over. And I was like, so I still decided to finish the psychology degree, and then God opened up doors later for me to go on to med school and become a doctor. But it was, but to answer your question specifically, it was second year while I was studying psychology where I made the decision to become a doctor.
I'm wondering, was that class when they brought one of the doctors? He was in charge of Sunderland, and he was very active in the beginning stages of psychology. Was it that course?
I am not sure. Your memory seems to be better than mine's right now, but
Hey, doctor. Well, that's a doctor. You all heard. A doctor say my memory good. Shame the devil.
I am not sure.
Well, either way, congratulations. If anybody didn't get to say, of course, from the University of Bahamas Athletics Department, congratulations on your accomplishment. It takes a lot of steady hands, and I think we're going to get into that, how your skills in basketball may have assisted with you being a doctor. So without further ado, let's really get into the beginning of it. We have a balance here in this conversation of athletics and academics. So tell us, firstly with athletics, what all sports were you interested in at a very young age? And probably even let us know what primary school did you go to?
Well, for primary school, I was actually homeschooled. I was homeschooled by my aunt. And so I didn't play competitive sports then, but my dad ensured that, you know, we had athletic ability. So I have pictures when I was just learning how to walk, holding a basketball with a basketball rim and a basketball net. From I was just learning how to walk, but my dad, he used a lot of the tools around the house, I guess. So like we had a swing set, so he would buy a volleyball and we'd be bumping and setting over the swing set. So that led to volleyball. We had bats, balls, mitts, so that led to softball, where I actually broke a window around the house one time because we were swinging. Basketball, I mentioned earlier that we had that we have a basketball court in our backyard. Is about a quarter size of a full court. But it wasn't until I went to high school, Nassau Christian Academy, that's where I got exposed to competitive sports. So I joined the basketball team and the volleyball team in the 7th grade. But the basketball team in the 7th grade, I think that wasn't the first team that they had, but that was one of the first teams that they had in a while. So the coach, who's also the PE teacher, Miss Michelle Miller, she didn't feel like we were fit enough to go and compete that year. So in terms of competitive sports, I only competed in volleyball that year in the 7th grade. And of course, you know, I won the MVP. I probably should have had the trophies as my background for this interview.
You're so humble and modest. You stop it.
But then the 2nd year, so that was in the 8th grade, that's when I was able to compete with basketball, and that's also the same year that I joined the softball team. So with basketball now, in the 8th grade, I competed, and then, but I don't think it was until the 10th year where I added track and field. Now I didn't do the running part. I hate running, but I did discus and javelin. So with each of those sports, you know, they stopped to a certain level. So let's start. We'll save basketball for last. So we'll start with track and field, since that one was the one I spent the least attention. I gave the least attention to. So discus and javelin. So I competed at BAISS, and then I am qualified to be able to compete with nationals. And of course, you know, Julie was on this a couple of weeks ago. Me and her competed, but boy, her distance was so far compared to mine. So I think I was in the 11th grade and she was in the 12th, because it's junior, intermediate, senior. And I remember this year specifically where her PR at the time was 33. Now, I'm not sure what a PR is now. I'm sure it's way more than that. And mine was 26. And boy, she came first and I came second. Huh?
start again from
Sorry, I can't
discus.
hear.
I'm sorry, there was a connection problem. So there was a disconnect from when you said I started off from discus. So just
Okay.
take off again from discus for me, please.
Okay, so I started off with discus and javelin. So with discus now, I was better at discus than I was at with javelin. So I competed at BAISS as well as nationals. Nationals is when all the islands come together and compete. And of course, I competed against Juliana Duncanson. She was on, the show a few weeks ago. And
Clark,
at the time,
Clark,
I
she
think I was
married.
in either.
She married. She's a Clark.
Yes, yes, that is true. That is true. Sorry, Juliana Clark. She married one of my high school classmates, actually, Christoph Clark. Sorry, Julie. But so I think I was in 10th grade and she was like in 11th grade or something. And her PR at the time was 33 and mine at the time was 26. And right behind me came like 25, 24, stuff like that. So that's as far as that went for me. Discus and javelin. Just up until the 12th grade, I would do BSS and then qualify for nationals and just stop at nationals. The next one would have been volleyball. So I was pretty good at volleyball in high school. I got an invitation to come and join to come and try out for the junior national volleyball team, but I had declined because I was so involved with basketball and it would have been too much. Softball now, so same thing. I played for my high school team up until the 12th grade, but I had joined night league softball. I think I was in either my second or third year at UB, and well, COB at the time, it is now UB. And boy, that became a problem with Kim Boy when she found out that you play in another sport not associated with the college, and you could risk getting the injury. That did not fly too well with her. But she let me finish the season at least, and then after that, she said no, I couldn't compete anymore. But that year we won championship. So with night league, I think they give championship rings. So I have a championship ring to prove that. Now with basketball, same thing. Competed high school. When I was in the 11th grade now, I am a tried out for the junior national basketball team and I made the team. However, they were changing up the date so much that my parents had forced to go on a cruise. So I wasn't able to travel with the team, but it was good to know that I made it. So the following year I tried out again and I told them don't book no trips around no summertime. So I said I got it because this is probably a one-time thing. So I made the team again. That year we had traveled to Mexico, so I had got some international exposure with that. When I went to COB, then I played for COB's team. Then when I went to the University of West Indies, I played this in Trinidad. This way I studied to get my medical degree. I played with their team as well as managed to play with a night league team, but I only managed for 1 year because it got a bit too hectic.
Oh, so you could still play?
I did still play. Yeah.
So can you still play right now? Like we have a blue versus white game where we invite alumni to go against each other. If we would invite you to go against Galvin them and Varo them and now Kimsey and Ramon them, could you shoot a three and just burn Kimsey? I mean, particularly just burn Kimsey. That's all I want.
That's all. That's all you want. Someone to come and burn.
I just want sub you in, take the pick. Line up with Kimsey. Like, even though players in front of you, just look right at him and then take the shot and hit it. And then I can sub you out. That's all I want.
Yeah, probably something like that. Just a little subbing and somehow. But Gavin and Think, man, those guys, they phenomenal. I wouldn't want to compete against them. But yeah, I still have some skill. Most definitely.
So I want to take a pause there and just say thank you so much for that, man. You're hearing that you're very athletic. I can say with confidence, other than soccer, you didn't say anything but soccer, but it sounds like you played every sport, and not only played it, you were run-out for national teams in volleyball and basketball. You did great inside track and field, throwing behind Miss Clark, and of course, you made it to the University of Bahamas and were given, I would say, among the first scholarships, and sadly the last for now, right? So at the time, I'm curious, at the time when you were coming to COB, how was that, knowing that you would be awarded the scholarship for basketball?
Actually, I wasn't one of the first to get the scholarship. I didn't have a basketball scholarship. My scholarship was what they call the bursary with the Ministry of Education, where you have to maintain a 3.0 GPA. So Well, it's a funny story with that. That was actually my first failure in sports because in the 12th grade, I was playing night league. We were playing on a team called the Junior All Stars. You know, Shadell and I were on the team together. We also did the national team together, and there was a tryout. COB was having a tryout for the scholarship, and I tried out, and I actually didn't get it. I
Oh,
was one of those who didn't get it, and I was definitely disappointed. Afterwards, speaking to people, they said I could come on as a walk-on, whereas you just don't get any money, but you still could play on the team. And so that's what I did. And so what they did, because everyone else on the team had a scholarship, what they did is they gave me a book scholarship. So that's where they would give me $350 a semester to go and get books and supplies and stuff, and then you got to return the books back so others can use it. So my main thing was academics, athletics. You know, that was secondary, but my main thing was maintaining that 3.0 so I could keep that scholarship with the government. I mean, now it's a 2.0, so a lot more people could get it. So that's really, really good.
that's good. And I mean, I didn't know that, but I'm still glad you did it. At the time when you were a player, how did you see the returns for athletic student athletes? That is, the benefits knowing. How did you get like first preference to your classes like regular student athletes?
Yeah, that it didn't start um when I first joined the team. I think by the subsequent year, I think that's when Mrs. Kimberly Roll initiated the whole you register at the same time as the seniors, and then it became even better, whereas we were allowed to register even before the seniors to avoid, you know, clashes with practices and stuff like that. So that, you know what that meant? Absolutely no excuse not to be in practice.
And although you say you're athletic, I mean academic, of course, focused because of your scholarship, how did you maintain the will to still go and play on the team? I mean, you're not really getting that much. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, books back then was expensive for real. But other than the books, like, how did you maintain that drive to, let's say, go to practice or, and tell us who was your coach back then? That would assist too.
Huh?
Who was your
What?
coach? Who was
Oh,
your coach, and what motivated you to still go to practice and give 100% despite not being under the regular mantle of a student athlete?
that goes to show that money wasn't the drive for me because when I competed with high school, of course, regularly we would pay the high school for them to teach us and then we play on the team, whatever. Granted, when I was in the 12th grade, my high school had offered me a full scholarship to stay there to compete for them. So for me, money never became the driving force for me. So it was always the thrill of the game. That's kind of what kept me. So coming to COB and realizing I didn't get the scholarship, that wasn't a big deal for me because my goal from the beginning was to get the scholarship from the Ministry of Education. I found out about the scholarship that CUB was offering much later on after my mind was already fixated on that. And I had already known that I had qualified because, you know, you just needed 5 GCSEs, maintain C average in math and English amongst those 5. So going to practice, going to games, that was fun for me because it wasn't the money that brought me there, so it wasn't the money that kept me either. Now, to answer your question on who was my coach, so our head coach was Charlene Smith. I always call her Smitty, you know. Smitty was my girl. And our assistant coach is your very own athletics director, Kimberly Roll.
Talk about
So,
it now. Talk about it. Get them. Keep going. I like this story. Tell us about the leadership on the court.
boy, Mrs. Kimberly Roll, I probably saw more of a bad side than a good side, to be honest. I'm seeing more of the good side now. Like, let's say if I go and I visit, I probably went like once last year because I wanted her to write a reference me. That was a completely different Kimberly Roll. You know, you're all in that new building and she have a fancy office and stuff now. She just not in the back of the gym. So like when I walked in there, the whole ambiance felt so different. And so like when I was speaking to her, it's like, man, this you sure this you sitting in this chair? And she's like, yeah, man. And I was like, wow. So on the basketball court, man, she used to get angry. She used to be throwing the clipboard on the floor. And like, let's say like you make a bad play on the court. She would come and she'd be like, you, come. And like, you sit on the bench. You sit on the bench next to me. Tell me why you do this. So why you do that? You gonna start be pulling pines out your hip. How long they gonna make you sit on the side there? So yeah,
Thank you for this, Faith. I was
Smitty was
like,
even
God, what
worse.
you could give me today? God gave me this. Keep going. I love this. Tell us more about the
No.
coaching and the Kimberly role. I like this. This to show y'all. This will be focusing on today.
But despite that, especially when we won, like she was always excitable and she was definitely a team player and stuff. And she actually used to put on a jersey and come and practice with us sometimes. That's how much she still loved basketball. Like
Was
sometimes
she
she'd be
any
like,
good? I don't want to hear this putting on jersey. If she stepped on the court, could she do moves? Could she maneuver? Could she do a layup? Was she good? That's what I want to know.
her short was wet, boy. I ain't gonna tell you no lie. You clearly don't know her game. Her short
I have
was
heard
wet.
rumors. I have heard rumors.
Rumors, they real. Whatever you hear, they real. Her
She a
game,
chilling now, man. She a chilling. She a two chilling. She slow down, man. I can't talk. All
just
right, for the record, all right, on the record, because I know Miss Roll watches, right? She just defeated me in UB Fit, like when we was going to run. So I can't talk bad, but athleticism to her, because she beat me. I was on the running, she was on the walking. I stopped running because I was tired. She passed me, so I can't talk. Hey, put it out there so she can't throw it back in my face. But
and she
she
pass
didn't.
you.
I was tired, but my goal was to run it in a certain time, and
Uh-huh.
I just outrun myself. Anyway, back to sense. So Miss Rule, of course, if you don't know, she's the head of the athletic department. She's somebody who's been advocating. Every athlete who's come on the show will tell you she's advocating on a international level for the perks that our athletes here can have. And to hear about this next side, about her coaching, it only confirms what I know for sure, that she's a passionate player. To throw on the jersey, she asked so she could teach you how to shoot. Did she teach you how to shoot? That's my question. Let's get there. Did Miss Rose teach you how to shoot?
Anyone who could play, no, anyone who has played basketball with me know that shooting was not my best attribute. I was the point guard, so I had to handle it. So when she shoot, her shot was wet and mine wasn't wet. So yeah, she did show me how to shoot. She did.
Wow.
She did.
I don't.
Right.
I cut all this out. All these
She
good positive
tried to
things, but
defend my form and all of that.
all these positive things, we cutting all this out. Don't worry about that. But let's get some more. And again, you have a good balance, the triple balance. If anybody's listening, so she's more concerned with her academics because she's on an academic scholarship. She's being given some perks from the Elites program, but not on the same level of today, right? So you can kind of let me know. I'm gonna call out some of the perks athletes have today. You can let me know yes or no if they had it back then. So 2 meals at the cafeteria. You guys had that back then?
There was no cafeteria.
Good answer. That's why I like doing this with you. Jersey is paid for and shoes that are paid for by the university. You guys had that back then?
Jerseys, yes, but the jerseys were old jerseys that we had to return later on so that other people so it could continue to be passed down. And shoes, no, we wore our own tennis.
So, and an example of how much we've grown, of course, the basketball team has a black jersey, gray jersey, blue jersey, and they're being given Adidas shoes because Adidas is, of course, our sponsors. So,
Wow. Okay.
that's. What about, of course, registration? So the perks were the same for registration as they are now.
I'm not sure what it is now, but we were allowed to register early, so that was the only thing.
What about study hall? You guys had to do study hall?
Study hall existed, but see, the rule for study hall was once you're a freshman, you have to prove to her that you could maintain the GPA. I think it was a 2.0 or 2.5. So you had to prove to her that you could maintain that GPA. And once you was able to maintain that GPA, then you didn't have to go back to study hall anymore. So for me, it was just the one semester or the 1 year, whatever the time was for the freshman. And after that, I just went with my transcript. I was like, bam! I was like, I don't need no more study hall.
All right, how about this one? I think this will be my final one. What about dormitory? Of course, I would say about 3 semesters ago with Justin Monroe and a few other people from Grand Bahama, we literally had a dorm section that was filled with only student athletes, females and males. So what were some of those perks there back when you were a student athlete?
No, we had 1 or 2 players from the family island, and they had to find their own place of residence. So no, they didn't have. They don't have privy to the dorms. No.
Well, I thank you for sharing that because now we get into a major thing I want to talk about, which is a lot of current UB students. And I mean, I would know that you guys existed. I was an active student, of course. But many students still don't know that COB had a females basketball team. They would go as far as to come to Mrs. Rhodes' office and come to me in the office of PR and tell us, COB need to do better, UB need to do better, y'all even got a team for basketball. And I just look at them and be like, so can you kind of guide us on probably why there isn't, this is a hard question, I know it'll be hard to understand for many, but in your estimation or understanding, why don't you think there's a current female basketball team?
I honestly don't know the answer to that because let's go back to the past now. So I don't know when the basketball team was established, but I met a team there already. And remember I said that they had the tryouts and that's how, you know, they recruited some. They only took about 2 or 3 people from each tryout. So if you have the tryouts, then, you know, that's how you could generate more players to your team. But only as of, I think last year or 2 years ago, they kind of resumed having the, remember I told I played for the Junior All-Stars and Night League. So they resumed a team like that. And so and I don't remember what the name of the team was, but they had a lot of females from high school that came together and make up a team. So let's say whenever basketball at COB stopped, because I don't know whenever that was, let's say they didn't have anyone who they think would be good prospects to keep the tradition going. Because one thing Mrs. Rhodes said was that, you know, you can't just have a team for having a team's sake. She say, you know, the university has to have a certain standard, and if I don't think the athletes can meet that standard, then it's not worth it to have a team. So maybe in their opinion, you know, going and scouting at the high schools and stuff prior, I mean, when they made the decision to stop, it could have been that maybe she didn't see as much as what she expected, one, or what she saw and expected. Maybe she had inquired about their grades and realized that a lot of them who were the best and were pretty good and would keep the standard up, that they probably wouldn't maintain that in the classroom, or they probably mightn't have even gotten accepted in the CUB. I mean, to be honest, I really don't know. And then another thing too could be that female basketball is not really popular in the Bahamas anymore, to be honest. I mean, even on an international level, how much people watch the NBA versus who watch the WNBA? I mean, in terms of volleyball, you have more people watching females play volleyball than versus men playing volleyball. So it's just, I guess there's a stigma attached to it. And so I guess it all starts from young.
I want to ask on that. That's a good segue into my next question. Did you have aspirations to play in the WNBA one day?
I did, but after I realized I wasn't growing anymore, then I kind of like pushed that dream away, because I realized that, you know, even the point guard just be tall. And so when I realized that that's it for me, and I said,
so when you realize I am highly challenged.
Exactly. That's when I said, you know what, that's it.
If you could, in a memory, name some players who probably played alongside you. And ladies and gentlemen, as I get into that question, I want to open up the floor for you to ask Dr. McKinney. Yeah, I said it right. Dr. McKinney, some questions you may have or you may hold. Ask as much questions as you want. But can you name some of the players who played alongside you in women's basketball at COB?
Oh, most definitely. That's easy because I still talk to most of them now. So Deandra Williams, that's Deandra Williams Sweeting, actually. She got married. You have Gat Swagger. Her real name is Delisa Mackey, but my nickname for her is Gat Swagger. Shadell Williams, of course. You have Deontay Bastian. You have Shakira. Her last name not coming to me right now. You had Tony for some time being. You had Jada. Jada is also a doctor as well now. She just graduated in the year behind me. You also had Pinky. What's Pinky real name? Is her
Rose?
name
Celeste? Rose?
Yeah, Rose, yeah.
Pinky used to play in the basketball team too?
Yeah, she did.
Pinky played on the volleyball, softball, and basketball team.
No, she didn't do the 3 one time. When basketball stopped, then I guess she picked up the softball, because the softball wasn't there when I was there. Remember, I told her to sneak away on play Night League. And I must not forget Natishka Silva. Remember, that's our colleague who did psychology. Natishka Silva. You got Christine Sinclair. So yeah,
Wow,
it's
you
quite
you
a
sound
lot
like you're remembering it like yesterday. I actually wore the shirt to trigger you, trying to trigger
to
you
trigger
today. That's,
me. I
yeah,
remember people having that shirt.
yeah. Only old people in COB know about this shirt. These youngins,
Exactly.
when they came out with the Run COB shirt, one of them come to me and said, "Y'all ain't never even thought of this." I say, "Boy, y'all youngsters today, disrespectful." We got our first question. How was your transition from high school to University of the Bahamas or COB back then?
Um, it wasn't difficult for me because so I told you about the academics and the athletics. So academics wise, I ended up being the salutatorian of my graduating class. So that should give you an idea that my grades are pretty up there. Um, and with athletics too, as well as so all those sports I mentioned were the only sports my high school offered actually. So you had said soccer. In the past, my high school had a soccer team, but by the time as I got there, they didn't. But if they had one, I would have played on it. So imagine every day you go to school, you go in the classroom, and then after that, either I had a practice or a game. So that's Monday to Friday. School to the field. Then after in the evening, I usually had something else to do as well. So Mondays would be drum practice because I was learning how to play the drum set. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I did karate. And so for me, although COB was difficult, boy, if you could pass COB, you could pass anywhere, to be honest. But although it was difficult, because I was so involved in so much things in high school, I had learned to be disciplined. I had learned that okay, school that end like 3:30, then practice end like about 5:30. By the time you go to the next event like karate or drum lessons is already like 8:30, and then you need probably like time to sleep. So I probably only have like a 4 hour window to study. And so I learned to focus within that 4 hour period. I learned to really, really, really focus. So when I got to COB now, the work was a lot more difficult and you couldn't just do 3 4 hours a night. You had to put in more hours. So with me having more time on my hands, I was able to use that same focus and study. So for me, the transition wasn't difficult because I was accustomed to being busy. I was accustomed to learning work in a short period of time and having to focus and stay focused. So for me, the transition wasn't that difficult, to be honest.
That's great. And ladies and gentlemen, we're in the question and answer period of the segment. If you see us disconnect, that's because there's a timer on Instagram. So about an hour in, we disconnect. But if we're involved in the conversation or we're still taking on questions, we'll just connect back in. So you don't have to go anywhere. So the next question is, what advice would you give someone who's struggling with academics in college or university now?
So my advice to someone, okay, so first you have to start within, right? So before you blame anybody else, you have to start within and see if there's an issue within. So first things first, with me, I didn't do this at COB. I did this when I went to the University of the West Indies because to me, the teaching was so fast. And so what I used to do is try to record, like if they were going over a topic that I didn't understand, I would try to record via a voice note or something and sit down and play that back. So what I used to do is every night I would sit at this table in the front room and I would go and rewrite the notes. So a lot of the information was kind of like learn and regurgitate. It was a lot, but it was basically learn and regurgitate. So this mightn't help someone who's studying like math or something like that. So what I used to do is like if we go over a lesson today, I tried to go home that same night and go back over that same lesson. And for the most part, that would help it stick. Now, granted, that only lasts for a few days. The work came in so fast that I couldn't keep up with that. But I still would go back and do that. So I had a separate notebook for my going over notes, right? So you try that tactic, see if that works. Then it depends on your learning style too. We learn learning styles in psychology. So if
Right.
you're a more of a visual learner, so what I did is there are a lot of YouTube videos and stuff out there. So if I didn't understand a particular topic, you don't have time to do this for all. If I didn't understand a particular topic, what I would do is watch a video and have someone else teach me it another way. And then, maybe that might work. But if that still didn't work, then, you have pair tutors who you can go to who probably
Mm-hmm.
already did the class before you, whereas you can go to them and you can ask them, say, I don't understand this, help me understand it. So my advice would be that look within yourself first, try to figure out, maybe you're not grasping the information that's coming from the teacher themselves, then you go and you let YouTube teach you. If that still don't work, if you still don't get it from the teacher, from YouTube, then you could always find a peer tutor. And also, lecturers, they have office hours. So if you feel like maybe you missed the class, that might be the reason you didn't get it, then you could go to their office hours. But definitely
Excellent.
that's...
Man, and shout out to Uniquely Noah 242, man. Great questions. Would you recommend COB, now UB? And I want to say COB first, and then I'll update you on the changes that have happened, because as a PR, one thing I do with every alumni is I walk everybody through the campus, and they say the same thing. They say, boy, because they can't recognize the campus. So would you recommend COB as you know it back then?
As I know it?
Yeah.
I would recommend, yes, I would. I would recommend it. So we can go back to when you say as I knew it. You know why? Because tuition is free. All you have to do is maintain a 3.0. Well, back then, all you had to do was maintain a 3.0 GPA, and you could get up to a 4-year degree for free. So definitely I would recommend it. Then you would learn, you know how I mentioned the discipline, the focus, and the stuff like that. You would learn what it is to sit in a classroom and have a tutor and have a teacher not spoon feed you. You know, you learn that if I don't grasp the information, I have to go and...
Ava Thompson, let me salute her. She never spoon feed you. Wait, huh?
Wait,
trust me.
whoa.
Hey, I fail after midterm in a class, still leave with a B. All fair me.
Look here. You bounce right back. Listen.
Yeah, she round me. No, she round me. She used to round me. And then Dr. Hudson used to throw those down. Sorry, shouldn't have said it on the show, Ren. Come on, edit that out. But Dr. Hutchinson used to bust me with pennies. She used to collect pennies. And as I sleep in the class, she used to hit me with it. But I still remember that.
You used to sleep for real, boy.
Let's move on. The show about you. The show about you. Move on. It's about you.
Okay. All right.
I wanna update you. Let me update you on the campus and ask if that recommendation is still valid. So since you have left, there's now, of course, the tuition waiver because of the government tertiary program, right? What that allows is with a 2.0, and you take in a regimen of 4 to 5 classes a semester, which puts you on track to graduate in 3 to 4 years. You're pretty much good. Secondly, there's the grant system that's allowing you to now, if you're from the Family Island, or maybe your situation is a little, not as privileged, we actually allow up to $500 a month to go toward your accommodations. So, for instance, those who are staying in the dorms, they're covered. If anybody has a dorm-style apartment, the grant, once they're approved by the financial aid office and the residential campus director, they would have that availability of funding. I'm saying even if you're staying with your aunt, and your aunt has a bill for you staying there, the university now has a way to pay your aunt to take care of you. For the athletes, of course, there's the food program, 2 meals a day. And this is this is pre-COVID. Of course, post-COVID, some things will change, like anything, right? But this is right before COVID. We got about 2 meals a day. Shout outs to the director and the leadership of athletics in that they find campus jobs for athletes now. So some athletes have a job on campus at the cafeteria or the bookstore, as well as the passing along of those books you spoke of, that they kind of just help each other out. The study hall that happens with the now demanding and credible source of the counseling department. I'm not boring you guys. I'm just telling you the benefits. And then the opening of the campus, right? So when you went to visit Ms. Rowe, you went back into what we call the old Portia Smith, but that's actually the new Portia Smith because they renovated it, right? We were used to the A Block library. There's now a 3-story library that does, I think it's the largest in the Caribbean. There's parking spots, there's accommodation, there's more security, there's a look of the campus. Anybody can see the video. So with all these updates, along with consistent recruitment of more international and Northern Bahama students, would you still recommend your COB/UB?
Yes, I would, but I want to ask you something. You mentioned, so it costs $500 to stay in the lab and to stay in the dormitory, $500 a semester.
About, I think, a month is the cost that they cover with the grant. Because if you got an apartment, they cover that in the grant. But the dormitory, the fees, I don't want to quote it. You can go to the residential campus to get that. But yes, it is covered by the grant. So it's like, at this point, going back to your point, I tell this to any student who going abroad in these times, you getting up to a bachelor's degree for free in your country. And you want your parents to give you money to go, and if your area is not here, I understand, but you want them to go into their pocket to pay for your bachelor's in a world that demands a master's and PhD? I don't think it makes sense.
Exactly. That's my whole rationale. That would be my whole answer for the question. But I was going to ask too, you said counseling? They have counseling?
Yes. The counselors, they make themselves available for athletes. We have some who are father mothers. We have some who have problems, maybe academic or maybe something in their life. So the counseling department is always supportive of our student athletes.
Man, I would recommend UB back then. So I definitely would recommend it now.
Let's go into the future. What about the dormitories? The dormitory is almost like a hotel hosting up to 1,000 students.
You mean
with that coming on board.
Future?
Yeah, it's getting built pretty soon. And we are having a convention center built, which will host our basketball games and volleyball games. So with these things in the future, as an alumni, I want to go back to that same question. What you recommend? COB, UB?
Most definitely. I'm going to be honest with you. So I attended the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago. So that was a huge campus. But let's say we took the the COB back then, and you expanded it at that same, with whatever their assets was, you expanded that to the size of the campus I attended. COB would have been better. Trust me. That campus I attended was old. If you see the dormitories that I lived on, so it was.
Dorms, every dorm, AC generators, AC and generators now. Like Garvin talked about that. Garvin talked about when the dorms, the Gaza, when the gate was in there and people used to walk through your house and the rat used to say, "Hey, what's up, boy? Everything cool to eat today?" So Garvin, shout out to Garvin and my boy Adrian Wildwood.
Listen, the dorms I stayed on didn't even have a ceiling fan. The only thing that was blowing on me was the fan that I brought. So
wow.
Wow.
So ladies and gentlemen, I'm saying all this to say, and this is a part of my job, obviously, but a lot of people have these misconceptions, and of course, Gabby, I invite you to take a walk at the campus. Even though it's closed, any alumni who walks through the campus will not recognize it. We have the Small Island Sustainability Building that's practically running itself. It's very sustainable. Departments and areas are being expanded. Every classroom has AC now. Every classroom has AC.
Even the T block and there was one corner.
Every class of AC.
Okay, all right.
So that's just a big up. I'm an alumni, so that's a big up our institution. But we're waiting on questions, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the 2-minute warning. So if you don't give us any questions in 2 minutes, we're kind of going to close the show. I'm going to give you a question, Gabby, just to wait for more questions. But my next question and my final would be, seeing the path that you take, right, is very motivating. I know that you became a medical doctor. But in this time of COVID, what do you do to kind of motivate yourself? I know you're a medical doctor and you're on the front forces helping people. But as a person who has an athletic background and now somebody's a professional, what do you do, or what kind of like maybe 3 tips you can give others that they can do during this time to stay focused and well, mentally and physically?
Okay, so this time, this probably is a difficult time for many, to be honest. So this is really a difficult question, to be honest. So it depends on, what circumstances people are faced with and what they're going through. Remember, a lot of people facing unemployment, some experiencing those debts. They are real. So some of them are people's grandparents, parents, cousins, siblings, and also being stuck inside for a long period of time. So what advice I would give someone, well, to speak from personal experience, okay? So I lost my grandfather as well as 2 aunties in a period of 2 months, as well as 2 church members and 2 cousins. Wow. Not all to COVID actually. About 2 of them were to COVID, and I myself contracted COVID-19 as well. So I'm a COVID-19 survivor. But so what I would give, so the advice I would give to someone was the same advice that I used. So the first thing first is to keep God at the center, because it was a point in time where almost every morning felt that I wake up that I was hearing some sort of bad news. it was either a family member was getting admitted to hospital, or one of the family members or someone I knew had died, or just overall bad feelings from having COVID-19. So one thing that I did is I used the time period to kind of draw closer to God. So definitely praying, wasn't so earnest with reading the Bible, but I would definitely encourage others to read the Bible. And then the churches were closed, so I weren't able to go physically go in the church building anymore to fellowship and commune with others. So I used WhatsApp as a medium to stay in contact with a lot of people. So I just hit up a lot of people and be like, hey, how you doing during this COVID time? Just checking up on you. So one, keep God at the center. Two would be check up on others. Message your fellow colleagues, because you don't know what they may be experiencing and what they may be going through. This probably more specific to athletes. I would say use this time to prepare. Diet and exercise most definitely, because there is going to come a time when you get back to the point where you get on the field or the court and you have to compete again, and you don't want to get catch slipping, for lack of a better term. So you're going to need to stay fit. So this is a nice time to use to learn new recipes and to eat healthy and stuff like that, and to just do exercise programs from your phone. Like you could just download an app or go jogging in the neighborhood. Someone trying to call you or something?
I cut that off right now. Give me a second.
Okay.
That's the headset is dying on me. It doesn't like me.
So
but what I want to do, we have two questions here, Gabby, and actually this is going to time out. I want to, let's say, do a part two. So we're going to close this and come back to part two, okay? So the two questions we're going to address when we come back is, how does your COB compares to universities academically? And the second question would be, how has the athletic program prepared you to become a doctor? So we'll answer that when we come back.
Okay.